Coach, for starters, obviously you guys got a really big test coming up against Texas Tech. What are you kind of seeing from them on paper, and how you guys are going through the week so far?
Man, you talk about a complete football team. I mean, 2 really good quarterbacks, a very good offensive line with good depth. I mean, probably 2 of the better tight ends that we've seen with the ability to run block and pass block, and they target those guys a lot. And then a deep receiving core. And then you talk about, 2 complete running backs that can give you problems in the run game and the screen game. Really good pass protectors. I mean, a very, very good. And what's really noticeable, shout out to their staff, is they're really well coached. I mean, these dudes play hard. They play with an edge. They're aggressive. So they're playing obviously at a very high level, and we got a big challenge this week.
Speaking of playing hard and with an edge, Coach kind of called that into question after the way you guys kind of struggled a little bit on that end of on your guys' side of the ball against Utah. What do you make about some of the struggles you guys face in the linebacker group, and how you guys are kind of trying to correct those going forward?
We're just going every day. We're working at practice. Coach Dilly, sometimes the truth isn't meant to make you feel bad or good. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And whether it's the coaches, the players, whoever's in the building, we got to be able to listen to those things. Take the personal feelings out of it, you know what I mean? Because it's not meant to make you feel good or bad. It's the truth. And that is what it is. And he really hit a couple things on the head that we as a staff have really taken a hard look at, and getting the guys out in the field to do those things. And we got to coach them. You know what I mean? That's why it says coach on our shirt.
How do you feel like they responded to that, to the physicality in practice this week with the full tackle and everything?
Good. I mean, they're excited about it. They're linebackers. They better like to do that. Otherwise, they're at the wrong place. You know what I mean? We've got a couple of really good leaders in the room that really take the challenges on. That when things don't go well, they look themselves in the mirror. You know what I mean? And so I think they've done a really good job of that. We're moving forward with it.
Your core especially has been so vital to being a great run-stopping team for you guys over the course of the last year plus. So what do you make of kind of the struggles you guys saw against the Utah team that has, the dual-threat quarterback, a good run game, and how can you kind of correct that going forward against Texas Tech?
Credit to Utah. Well. They obviously prepared better than we did coming out of the bye week. You know what I mean? Did some really good things schematically, but really, obviously, like Coach Dillingham said, they out-physicaled us. And so that means us going back to the drawing board and really looking at our base fundamentals, whether for us it's with our eyes, our feet, our hands, making sure those fundamentals before everything else is right. And generally, when at least linebacker play in our system, when their eyes, their feet, and their hands are correct, it allows them to play free and physical, and kind of the rest dominoes from there.
And you have a lot of leaders in this group as well. And Coach talked about the importance of kind of not letting this game, the Utah game, affect the rest of the games going forward and flushing it. For you as a coach, do you try to be hands-on in that ability to make sure that gets flushed, or you kind of leave it up to the players to correct themselves?
No, I have a lot of, whether it's individual meetings, obviously I'm going to take our message for the week off of what Coach Dillingham wants and what he's emphasizing. It always starts there, and then from Coach Ward. So, it's a mixture, obviously, of what they want to impress on from a team standpoint and then from a defensive standpoint. But then from there, some of that, like in coaching, is just knowing the personalities you're coaching. You know what I mean? And with older players, we have some older players that I think really understand those things, but I still think it's important to talk about those things, whether it's individually as a group, and then, then throughout the week, whether that message is given to the group or individually. You know what I mean? I think it's really important to also continue to move forward. You know what I mean? Because like Coach Dilly said, you can't let the same team beat you twice.
When you look at Texas Tech's offense, it's a much more traditional style of play you guys are used to. You practice in it compared to the triple option that Utah runs. Do you feel like that sort of familiarity is going to help you guys out?
Yeah, a little bit. But again, obviously, like every week there's going to be new schemes. Every week you're going to see offensive coordinators. Max, a very good OC that we saw last year when he was at Texas State. Even knowing just the tree of coaches that he comes from, it's been a very, very successful tree, and those guys are really, so there's similarities, but man, you're gonna have to prepare for different nuances, and then also you're gonna have the preparations to adjust as they show you different schemes in the run game or the pass game, and make sure those adjustments fall within what your guys are comfortable with, and they can still do to continue to play fast.
When you look at both of the quarterbacks, how do you kind of split up that preparation because of how well they both performed throughout this year?
Man, that's a great question. You know what I mean? I think, you got to understand they both have the ability to spin it really well. You can tell they're really coached on the pictures that they see and the concepts they want to throw. And then you obviously tie in their ability to run the football, you know what I mean? And so, like, guys like that, but we've seen a couple guys like that too. You know what I mean? Those guys that have the ability to move in and out of the pocket, can run the ball. And really what that comes down to is what Coach Ward preaches in 111 defense. Everybody's got to do their job on each call and trust their teammates. And, I personally, I'll tell the linebackers, we don't need superheroes. We don't need, Superman. We need Batman. Batman was just a regular dude doing his job. You know what I mean? And that's when you're playing people with this much talent and they're coached this well, you got to do that. Because if people go out and big play hunt, you might make some explosive plays, but they're going to hit you on some as well.
Does this last week against a quarterback like Dampier kind of make it easier to prepare for those more like dual threat guys as well? You guys have been playing a lot of pocket passers up until that week.
I'd say yes and no, but like again, when it comes to like preparing on how guys are, everybody's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And again, it harkens back to you got to be careful about drawing from the well too much of what happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I think these guys are pretty motivated. I don't think anybody was happy with what happened up in Salt Lake in that locker room or obviously on the coaching staff. So I think if you go back too far in the past, like you're gonna have some issues on not focusing on the future. And when I say the future, like the next opponent, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think it's really just focusing on like doing our job within the schemes that we're calling and making sure that guys understand how like individually their quarterbacks might present a different issue.
You've been seeing a lot of growth from some of the young guys on the squad as well. Obviously, Martell has been continuing to rise and grow as a player. What have you been making about the growth and improvement of some of the guys in your room over the course of this season?
You know, that's what we expect. You know what I mean? Like I personally, and I know Coach Dillingham, like it really starts at the top of Coach Dillingham and Coach Ward. They really believe in and impress upon us as assistants to coach everybody. Because you never know when an injury is going to occur and the next man's going to have to go in, if that makes sense. And I was really blessed when I was a much younger coach. Craig Wall, head coach I worked for a long time, that was his big deal. He's like, we're going to coach everybody, starters all the way down through walk-ons, because you never know when those opportunities, those guys are going to rise and when a whole team's going to need a guy that nobody ever thought you'd need. You know what I mean? So those guys are held to the same standards, you know what I mean? And that's a very high level. And they take those in. And then I think a lot of credit again goes to the guys around them. Those older guys do a really good job at mentoring those guys and helping them mature. And you know, we joke a lot, but I'll be the bad cop all the time and let those guys play the good cop, or vice versa. You know, Crook will jump on those guys and I'll grab. So it's just that balance. You know, just like when we were all kids, sometimes a message from your parents didn't connect, but maybe a teacher or coach said it and you heard it. It's the same thing, right? It's just a different voice hearing it. You know what I mean? So again, a lot of credit goes to the group, but we also talk a lot about guys' development in front of guys within the group, if that makes sense. So they hear the goods and bads or the things they need to get better on, not just from me, but from their peers. You follow me on that? And we have a lot of open discussions about that. You know, like Prayer's a great example. Like Prayer couldn't tackle a soul this time last year. Now he's improved a lot and he's playing on special teams. And so we use him as an example a lot to our red shirts that I was working with. Because like, yeah, you guys are struggling with this or that or this, and you feel like you're the worst player in the world, and all the things that go through young guys' heads. But man, if you just keep trusting the process and working at the process the best of your ability, there's light at the end of the tunnel, if that makes sense.
What do you think seeing someone like Martell was such a huge part of the special teams last year, and seeing the results of the people before them who put in the work and not getting rewarded?
Well, I think that can be good, but they have to have the maturity to realize that work doesn't, or that growth doesn't happen overnight. You know what I mean? A lot of times young players, they look at Crook and Key and go, okay, yeah, I want to be like that. Or, you know, if I'm a younger safety, I look at, you know, Boogie, or I look at, you know, Rouser, or whoever it is on our defense, right? And they go, I want to be like that. Well, yeah, there's a big difference between want to be and you are. You follow me on that? And so I think that's where it's good. As long as we've been here now, at least in the room, you start to see stages of that with, you know, a guy like Martell that's starting to emerge, Prayer, who's like kind of right below him, but starting to work his way up. Like, you get guys like that, and you know, that's what I was just talking about, those guys right there. It's a daily process, and the small gains, when they're young, they don't understand the small gains, but like as a coach, you start to see it. Yeah. And in this day and age, you got to get those guys trusting and buying that process. You know what I mean? Because, you know, we want to develop guys, but you got to develop, and it's got to happen quickly.
You know, you guys take it one game at a time, but how big is this Saturday to kind of set the tone for the back half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Coach Speak, it's a big game because there's going to be a lot of people here and it's sold out, and I'm sure it's on national TV and all that good stuff, right? And I'd say this, like, not disrespectfully, but like, I'm just focused on tomorrow. It's a big game, there's no question about it. They know it, we know it, but we got to keep our guys focused on the process. We're not necessarily playing Texas Tech. We are, in the sense, from the scheme and the players, but really we're playing against our own standards. Does that make sense? And getting back to just focusing on what we do and not thinking about what other people do or who they are or where they're ranked or stuff like that. And again, all credit and respect to Texas Tech, because they've got there's a reason they're 5, 7 in the country. They're a really good football team, guys. But just in my experience as a coach, sometimes you play your best when you just focus on what you need to do, if that makes sense, and kind of block out the outside noise. They're going to be excited. You're not going to have to get the guys up 1 o'clock kick in Tempe. Like, they're going to be fired up. Like, we're not going to have to get the guys going for this one. So really, again, it's focusing on the process and how hard we practice, how violent we are, how physical we are, and how well we communicate.
All right, awesome.